All right, bros. I don't need to tell y'all. We have gotten down to the nitty gritty of it, and Twitch servers have been the issue this entire time. I have the tool to check it now, and they tried to screw us. But we're here because we're here for the people. Welcome to the 54th episode of the Made in Dreams podcast. I am your host, Mighty Vicious, the Credible Hulk, joined as always by my co-host, Jamie James, cutting the checks as the Corpo Oligarch, a.k.a. the Suit of the Isles,
Oh
a.k.a.
my
the Jack Balance of Dreams. And
god
today...
damn! I mean, last week I really missed the whole introductory thing, and you really brought the heat this week.
I had to. I know a couple people were like, "Man, you didn't bring it last week," so I had to come this week. But let's get on with the show. Today we're joined by the dynamic duo Atheist W, Anime Boy 0021, creators of the what I believe to be considered the best racing game of dreams, Metro Street Racer. How you guys doing today?
We're good, man. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing
I'm good.
great. Fantastic. So I'm glad to hear they're doing better than the Twitch servers. I can't let it go. I'm so mad. Anyway, the point is, guys, really, let's start off with the whole origin story. Like, give us the rundown on where in the Dreamiverse Gotham you formed this powerful duo, to put out such a comprehensive racer with quite the massive vision.
So, I guess it started around March, April last year. We just gone into lockdown in the UK and America, and kind of had a lot of time on our hands. I'd made my first sort of foray into dreams with a little racing game I made called Metropolis Street Racer, which was
I thought it was too British.
definitely stolen from the Dreamcast, the Dreamcast classic from back in the day. And it was the first thing I'd like properly made in Dreams. I sort of had Dreams in early access and hadn't really touched it because I couldn't get with the motion control, which was mandatory, and I was just like, I can't do anything with this. I couldn't even I literally couldn't even do the tutorial. I'm there like wobbling around, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to leave this for now. And I was sort of like waiting for them to come up with stick control support, and they didn't do that until the full game came out. So it wasn't until February 2020 that I really started to, get into dreams and get into creating. And like everyone, you start off kind of just learning bits and bobs. I had a few people that already played it, taught me some basics about stuff like keyframes and action recorders and stuff like that. But I was really just interested in building. I just wanted to build worlds. I wanted to see like what you can do, and I was kind of amazed by how much stuff you could put into a level and the detail that was possible. So I made this little racing game that at the time I thought was like, whoa, this is amazing. Can you go away, please? And yeah, cat, can you go away, please? Thank you, daughter. Come on, off to bed, please. Off to bed.
For our audience, this is a live show, so things do
Yeah,
happen.
well, it's live. Anything can happen. Um, so, so yeah. Uh, Cat, can you go away, please? Thank you. Okay, can you leave me alone and go see mummy, please? Okay, go on. Go
I
on.
will give you
Wow.
chocolate. I'll give you whatever you want, please.
Bye bye.
Night night, cat. Yes, your cat. Okay. Night night, cat. No, you don't. Go.
Maybe
Bye.
she wants to be on the show. Who knows?
She always just pop
Sorry.
up during our chat sometimes.
It was supposed to be his that would be more likely to get distracted. Can you take it
Right?
away,
Facts.
please? Thank you. So anyway,
That was like all the stages right there.
live
There
live
was like the
TV.
bargaining, the everything.
Oof. Okay, there we go. Hopefully, no more interruptions. So yeah, so I was inspired really early on, thinking like I want to make a racing game, and after making this first one, I got ambitious, and I was like, oh, I want to make something that's kind of Miami based. And I was using some assets, and I was using like some palm tree assets and things that were out there. And I was getting really frustrated because every time I put a palm tree down, I could see my gameplay going up like 1%, 2%, 3%. I was like, what? One palm tree costs 1% gameplay? That doesn't make any sense. And obviously Miami, it's full of palm trees, so it's kind of, I wasn't really getting anywhere with it. And then I saw a level that Randy had made, which was called Alana Beach, that was sort of based on Miami, Tampa of his own. And he had tons of palm trees and, just really beautiful landscaping and things. And I was like, whoa, this is incredible. This is the sort of thing I want to make. And I hit him up and I was like, dude, that's amazing. Like what you've made there. I'm making a level myself, where'd you get the palm trees and stuff. And then he was just like, oh yeah, I'll sort you out. You can use some of mine. I've got some good ones that will cost you less.
It was so funny
and
because
we keep
the ones
chatting,
that
didn't
the ones that I placed in the level at the start were the ones that you already had in there.
we? Yeah.
Because
But-
you were using my palm tree, and I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
have a palm tree. And then I got in there, and I was like, why does this look familiar? Oh, I made it. So
But
we ended up
from that-
using, yeah, we ended up using painted trees, which we found out was a no-go. That is a no-go in any aspect. Do not use paint, especially if you're on a base PlayStation 4. Mine almost exploded. I swear to God.
Yeah,
And
I can believe it.
Yeah.
we had over 150 painted trees in our first Miami level, and we thought, that was helping with the graphics and the gameplay, whatever. But no, not really, because all it did was it like messed up the level because everything was like super laggy. Like we would pull the car forward, and then it would just feel like like when your car jolts when you need like a tune-up or something. That's what it felt like. Plus, with the Ninjawana chassis from last year, it wasn't that good. So compared to now, because it's got like all those like new bits and bobs, which makes it so much better and easier to use to make vehicles. Especially since we've gotten help from Night Owl, who is a phenomenal man. He has just helped us in so many ways over the past year or so, and it's been great. So
Yeah. He is the sort of silent third member, if you like. He's the one that he hasn't got any kind of social media presence or anything. He's very much himself to himself. But
he's our silent
without
Gandalf.
his work, we wouldn't be able to make anything because he's the logic guru. He's the one that he's the one that basically comes up with all the different logic solutions. He's the one that has continually evolved the car handling from where it started, and he sort of builds on top of it, and just keeps adding things. We sort of say to him, "Oh, it'd be nice if we could do this," and he goes away and he sort of, problem solves, and a few days later he comes back and he's like, "Okay, here we go. How's this?" And then we iterate and feedback, and eventually we end up with something that we can add to the game. And it's always evolving. That's the thing with our series, is it's it's always evolving. Every time we release one of our full sort of tracks, there's an improvement that's made there in the handling model and the optimization, all that sort of thing. And we just kept learning and learning. And only now, I think, with the last sort of demo that we released for Dreamscom, only now, like over a year later, are we at that point where we're sort of like, we've got a base in terms of the gameplay to build on. Everything up to that point was just kind of experimenting. It was, trying to make things better. It was trying to make it handle more like a car and less like a brick, and all these kind of things. And I feel like now we're at the point where we've got a solid kind of a ground to build on. We've got all these sort of assets that are modular, that we can just they all work together, and you drag and drop and place them into the level, so it makes it a lot quicker to make the race and get the different chassis.
Unless it's a tree.
Bodies and stuff. Say again?
Unless it's a tree, then I gotta remake it like 60 times.
Well, we can talk about your trees we can talk about your tree obsession a bit later. I'm sure, but yeah, no, it's just one of these things that I think, the pandemic made possible, really, because neither of us were working at the time, so we had loads of free time. And obviously there's this 5-hour difference with the time, which would normally make it difficult to chat, to people, as you guys kind of are well aware, that time zone difference. But because of the pandemic, we were able to chat a lot, come up with ideas, and we just hit it off. We just bounced off each other. We inspired each other. We encouraged each other to get better. And really delve really deeply into the tools of dreams and try and learn as much as we possibly could, to make the best thing that we could, given the tools at our disposal.
Well, as I stated before, the sheer size of this is beyond impressive. But I guess how is the work all divvied up? I guess outside of the things I have heard about this tree obsession, and I kind of want to know about it. I want to know what's with these trees.
Randy, do you want to field the tree question?
Should I do the story? I feel like I should do the story.
Give us the origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was 2 years old, I was living in a dumpy trailer just outside of Detroit, and during a thunderstorm, a little tree that I had my eye on for weeks fell down in my backyard. So while my mom was doing the dishes, I snuck out into the backyard with my 2-year-old little self in a diaper, went out there in the mud, picked up this tree, grabbed a little hand of mud, put it in the toilet, and then planted it. And my mom came in the bathroom. She's like, "What the hell's going on?" And I was like, "This is my tree." And that's basically how it started.
Awesome.
I planted a tree in the toilet.
So it's been a long life obsession with trees, not just in dreams.
Well, I'm also an artist outside of dreams. So another thing with the tree obsession is I grew up mostly in Alabama as a child, so I was surrounded by forests. And even in Michigan, I'm surrounded by woods. It's like there's not a house, there's a whole plot of trees, which is crazy. And I used to draw trees with my grandmother, and she would teach me all the different types and stuff that would be around the area. And when I was 5 years old, I went to a nature a nature place,
Preserve.
and yeah, a nature preserve in Alabama. And the guy was saying all the trees. I was like, "Nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. That's wrong. And you work here."
So I guess I would ask.
Just had, his face when he got home, when he's just like, "This 5-year-old pretty much took my job."
So I guess what would be the hardest thing about translating your knowledge and love of trees into dreams? Is there a difficulty to it, or something you find?
Not really. There's no difficulty. The reason I bought dreams was to make trees. Literally, my coworker at Walmart was just like, "Look at this game. It's called Dreams. You can create anything you want." I was like, "What are those?" He's like, "Well, those are trees." I was like, "No, they're not."
Oh no!
I know my trees.
You trees.
I don't know a tree I ever saw.
When I started, I literally went onto the dream search and I looked up trees, and I looked at the first 60, and I was like, "Okay, do they have any good palm trees?" So I looked up palm trees, and I was like, there's not a lot of there wasn't a lot of difference in palm trees. It was always just the same tree, coconut palm, coconut palm, coconut palm, coconut palm, and I'm like, there's 2,600 different species of palm trees. This is unacceptable.
I gotta say, I love your passion for trees. Do you have a whole tree library that you've made in dreams, then released a Dreamverse with
6?
I think you're close to 1,000 trees in dreams. That is
Wow.
not an exaggeration.
No,
because
I
you
have
make trees every day.
I have 589 trees in dreams currently.
wow.
That doesn't include all the ones that you've archived, though, because they're not good enough.
Not counting the ones I've redone and had it in the same element, and not counting the ones I've archived that no one will ever see. You will
So
never see them.
over 1,000, I think, is quite accurate then as an
So,
estimate.
so what you're
Because,
telling me
yeah.
is if I need a tree, I should come to you.
Oh yeah,
Pretty much. You can even
Okay.
text me and be like, I need this type of tree. Like, you don't even need to give me specifics. You could be like, I need a maple. I'll be like, okay, so
which one?
let's give you a maple. You want red, silver, white? You want English? Do you want Japanese? Which one? Black, Florida,
Mm.
sugar. Like,
Oh God. No.
I'm in awe with this tree encyclopedia. Like it's incredible that you've taken something that the majority of dreamers would perceive as just like a basic element that they just search for and stamp into their scene, and you've took it to a whole other level, like of intricacy and detail and research and history. And it's so cool to see that something so minuscule to everyone that they would necessarily think you've made this whole thing with it, and that's just awesome. I love that.
I think as well that's
thank
one
you.
of the things for me that I've really loved about working with Randy on our levels is that we don't just we haven't just gone, oh, any tree will do kind of thing, but we're trying to make this game where it's based on all these different locations in the US, and part of that is down to the foliage, flora and fauna. And Randy's obsession is such that he will look at, like, Google images and Google Maps, and he'll be like looking at all the different trees in the area that we're trying to recreate, and they'll be like, okay, so I need this tree, I need this tree, we need to make this tree, I need to make 6 different types of this tree of different variations, and so that fuels his encyclopedic kind of creation of trees as well, is like all the different tree types in the United States. And on top of that, there's also the different detail levels, because with the racing game, he makes some incredibly detailed trees that are just like too expensive. They take up like 10% thermo for just one tree because they are so detailed, and because the way that you make trees, it's not cheap because of all the stamping and stuff, or
Well, not anymore, but
however you're doing it, it's expensive, especially palm trees, which seem to be the one that are
oh
really
god.
still your kind of nemesis in terms of trying to get low thermo palms. But it's like with a racing game, you're driving so fast, you're not noticing that detail, so it's just kind of wasted. So
Yeah, yeah,
we've got to the point where he's now making trees that are specifically low thermo for the level. So we're having the 2% graphic trees, that still look awesome, but that means that we can actually have 7, 8 different types of trees without blowing up the entire thermo and leaving room for everything else. Whereas in the early days, we were just sort of using, well, whatever you had, and they were
We
expensive. So
had, what was it? Miami the first time. No, third time. We're on the third time right now. The second time that we redid Miami, all the trees together cost what, 38 graphics?
just on trees. Wow.
We had 15 different types because Florida is so like it's got so
diverse.
many different variations of trees because they take them from all over the world, and there's also the variations of trees that grow in Florida. So instead of me going, oh, I'll pick these like 3 and then call it a day, I was getting way too in depth with going on Google Maps and seeing all the different types of trees and stuff. And architecture is the same thing because I want like 15 different types of houses, and then Russ is just like, we only need 3. We only need 3 houses, and I'm like, but that's not what it's like in real life. He's like, it's not real life. Stop it.
This is where the thermo limitations, really really annoy us, because we want to make things that are really varied and detailed, and obviously you can't, because Dreams has got that limit of 100%, and that's quite a small limit really. But we've just worked over the last year, we've learned so much about optimization,
Yeah,
within level, optimization when making sculpts, how to get the most out of the least. So most of the things that we make for our levels now are like 1 or 2 sculpts maximum, so we can just use tons of them. all around the place. So both of us have learned a lot about that kind of that sort of minimalism when it comes to fitting as much as possible into one sculpt. Obviously the downside is that the graphics kind of, you lose the graphical fidelity. And I'm hoping with like whenever they do a proper PS5 update, we're just going to be able to go into all our levels and just basically be like crank up that detail, and it's going to look amazing, because then you'll get much higher levels of detail, because we have to bring it down, because of the amount of stuff that we put in. But even so, I do think that with the stuff that we're making, because of the techniques that we use and stuff, it still looks good at 1 or 2% graphics. For what we're using it for a racing game where you're zipping past it at 110 mile an hour. So unless you do stop and actually like get up really close to it, and you're like, oh, that's a bit flecky or whatever, but otherwise, it's fine. It's doing what it's supposed to do. And I think we've had to come to that realization that there has to be a compromise somewhere. You've either got to have lots of stuff and compromise the graphics, or you've got to have smaller areas, and then you can have higher fidelity graphics and more detail. Like gameplay was something that we didn't really understand at first. I don't think anyone did, because if you look at old creations and old assets and things, people are literally using one sculpt for like the tiniest little thing. Like individual nuts and bolts is like a single sculpt. So somebody's making like a workbench and it's like 10% gameplay. You're like, how the hell's that 10% gameplay? And you go into it and you break it down, and it's like, Jesus Christ, it's like literally every single thing is an individual sculpt. And that's just, that's, I mean, if you want to make something that, is a showcase of just a workbench, fine. But if you're making something, as most people are for some sort of game, you need things that are more condensed. So I think everyone's been learning a lot about optimization and the importance of optimization, and now we're seeing that with the projects that people are making, in Dreams.
Yeah.
So, is there a 1-to-1 on these locations, or at least like a city planning? Because a lot of it looks like it could be 1-to-1 outside of, as you said, like optimization choices.
It isn't 1-to-1. I mean, it depends. There are some that are more accurate than others. So, the Empire City one that's based on Times Square in New York, that one, I sort of looked at the maps and literally like looked at the map and drew out the map and things. So that one's quite accurate in terms of the layout. The Motor City one is based on Detroit, and that was sort of Randy's obsession because that's his sort of hometown. And so that one is quite accurate in terms of where things are placed, where the main landmarks are. Obviously, scale-wise, it's a lot more condensed, as it needs to be. But in terms of like the layout and stuff, that's quite accurate. But then you've got other things like California coast, which covers, I don't know, 50 or 100 miles in about 5 miles. So you go all the way from Big Sur, which is just south of San Francisco, and you go all the way down the coast and end up at LA in 5
Try
minutes.
300 miles.
Yeah, okay, 300. So,
Try 300.
So it depends. But I think really what we try and do is we try and get that vibe more than anything. So, the vibe of the city. And I feel like even like Rockstar with GTA, they do the same, because if you were just to recreate something 1-to-1, there's lots of crap, there's lots of empty space, there's lots of, oh god, here we go, another suburb, or oh, here's another nondescript block, whatever. So what Rockstar did brilliantly with the GTA maps is that they condensed all of the areas into playable chunks, and they made it so that it was interesting all the way around without getting too boring. So everything is a lot smaller. You got your Venice and you've got your beach and downtown and everything,
Yeah.
but it's all within like a minute of each other, you know, so you're never sort of in one area for too long. So you feel like it's huge, but you don't get bored. Whereas, you know, in the real LA, you could just be driving for an hour on one single straight road, just
Yeah, and make it
because it's
only
just
about 5
enormous.
minutes from your house.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of finding the balance between we want to be realistic and we want it to be indicative of where it's based, but at the same time we're making it, you know, to be fun, and so the gameplay considerations have to take priority. So sometimes there's things like, well, that would be cool, but you know, that's actually not going to work from a gameplay point of view. It's not going to be fun. It's too long, or it's too, you know, so it's yeah, it's just kind of coming up, I think, with those ways of condensing the interesting bits down into a smaller package. I think San Francisco, you did that particularly well with.
San Francisco was completely like freestyled. So when I started it, I was what was I doing? I think I was playing Minecraft. I was making San Francisco on Minecraft like a week prior from there on my Xbox 360, which crashed that week. And I was making San Francisco, and then I was just like, well, why don't I just do this in Dreams? So I had Russ here start a new Dream, and I drew out everything, but that didn't happen. So I kind of just freelanced San Francisco piece by piece by piece by area. And when I went on to Google and I was looking at the different areas, I was like, well, that's not actually there, and that's not actually there. And he was just like, but the layout is good. I was like, you're right, the layout is good. So we kept the layout, and San Francisco is what it is now. About, what, 5 months ago, I did a complete revamp. I got rid of a crap load of trees and buildings and everything, and it was pretty much empty. Like, you could see the void.
I even
the
put down
Dreams
a whole new
void.
set of roads.
Right, he texted me, he was just like, what's going on in San Francisco? Why is it gone? I was like, it's replacement time. Get the replacements.
Awesome. Well, it all worked out.
Because, yeah, I think
Yeah,
that really
it
came
looks
about
really
because
well.
of the fact we made it so long ago. We'd made it, you know, going back to the optimization, yeah, we've made it really inefficiently in terms of the assets we used and the way that we built certain things. And obviously, we've come like a year and we've evolved the sort of gameplay, and we've got all this extra logic and things that takes up more gameplay. And it's basically just, you know, how do we save thermo? And sometimes it's just, well, just chuck it all away and start again.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, you know, we've done this with
A
about
good
3 packs now.
example is Miami. I literally started like not even a month ago. I deleted the entire level. I left like signs and stuff, and that was pretty much it. But it was basically scratch because I just made a new road set, and I thought it would be better because what roads were we using?
We were using the ones of Ninjanas that I painted to make look like the USA roads.
Yeah, and those aren't exactly the best looking because the road lines are extremely thick. Like they could fit a whole car. And so I just put in my new roads that I made with like sidewalks and like, you know, driveways and everything. And there's even pieces where like you have grass in the middle, you know, of the medians and stuff, which is perfect for Florida. And I did that, and then I was just like, okay, I'm gonna replace a few buildings, and then, you know, with these new roads, that should be fine. No.
No.
Yeah.
I
No.
go in the next day, I'm like, so
Where am I
Miami's
go?
gone.
And that happens a lot because my artist brain is just like, well, I can make this better. Well, I can make this better. That's like the problem. That's like my problem with the trees. I have remade a Mexican fan palm, which are the really tall palm trees in Los Angeles that you see everywhere in like LA movies and stuff.
Yeah.
I have remade that tree, no joke, 52 times.
Wow.
I have 52 different versions on my dreams. Not all of them are public because I was just like, ugh. So I have remade that tree 52 times in 2 years.
Yeah, and you do tend to do this while we're making stuff as well. So like he'll put like, oh, I've made this new tree and it's going in the level, and it's all put in. And then a week later he's like, yeah, I've remade the tree. I'm like, what? Why? What was
I
wrong
just
with the
did
last
that
one? He was
this
like,
week
oh, well, it was
too.
the leaves are wrong, or the fronds are wrong, or oh my god, and
If you wouldn't mind me asking, like,
crazy.
because we've talked about this a few times, and guys, I just want like, not you guys, but everyone listening, I'm sorry. I know we've talked about it a lot, but as a person who's spent so much time on trees, and both of you with assets, period, like, what do you think would be, I guess, the fair way to monetize it? Like,
Ooh.
would you like, because the way y'all are speaking, I've just been thinking about like all the stuff you've made for this game, and I'm like, would they put it out as like a, build your own city asset pack and have that be like a certain amount of money, or would they try to do it per item? Like, would you release a tree pack, or like, how would you?
I think this would actually be my vote because I do commissions.
Okay.
I currently price my trees at 15 per tree. 15 USD per tree, which is extremely cheap considering the fact that if you go on Unity, there's $75 for one freaking palm tree.
Okay. I
So,
see you. You're
Right.
looking at the market.
Right, I'm looking at the market. I'm like, $75 for that little dinky little, looking like it was made in 5 minutes. Y'all got me messed up. Seriously,
censorship there.
hashtag no go.
Okay.
And
All right.
I was looking at this tree pack on Unreal Engine because I'm like, oh, they got some awesome looking stuff. 4 red maples, $380.
Wow.
$380 for some freaking maples on a computer. Are you kidding me?
On a computer.
I'll go outside and go pick one out the woods.
Not even a real maple. Like, this is a digital maple.
They're cheaper in real life than they are on a computer. I can go get a red maple from my local nursery for $40, and it's like 6 feet.
Huh.
It'd probably even grow faster than the ones on the computer. Sadly, this.
I mean,
Super passionate about
real talk. Given when you first said 15 per, I was like, huh, that's a little steeper than I would have thought. But
Yeah.
I do like that you're actually basing it off of something, like being professional about it. And with that, I think that's awesome. And I don't know what would be the price, because everybody worries with
Right.
monetization always being on the the back burner in the back of everyone's head when it comes to dreams, and some people not waiting for dreams to do it. What's the right price? Does it will it become what you just described? Will it become the going to find some trees and all of a sudden you're looking at a $350+ purchase? Like, so like, that's why, from what I've gathered from talking to other people, that's everybody's fear, is that the moment you open it up to money, you're going to immediately create the Unreal market. Or someone brought up another marketplace that apparently is super egregious, like even more so than Unreal. Huh?
Speedtree? Because
No,
Speedtree was what you were looking at, wasn't it, Randy? That's what you were sort of.
Speedtree, Unreal, Unity, and SketchUp. SketchUp is usually free though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, SketchUp is a free piece of software.
SketchUp's interesting, especially with how many polygons they use just for one plant. Like, wow, that's a lot. And then you look at video games like Uncharted 4, and the polygons that they use for one tree, wow.
Wow.
I love that you have this air about the
Yeah,
trees. Like, it's
he
so
is
great.
like a tree aficionado. Like you are the tree king of dreams. Like you are just the official tree guy. Like if you need a tree, if you need to talk about trees, optimizing trees, building trees, anything tree related, just go to this guy. Like he is your main guy for trees.
I
Okay.
also
Yeah.
do extremely low thermal houses. A lot of them were inspired by Cap Morgan, which we actually had like a running like thing together, like who can make the better house. I challenged him to do the Ransom Gillis in Detroit, and then he made one, and I was just like, it's not exactly accurate. It's a nice house, but it's not exactly accurate. Then I made my own, and he was just like, you just blew me out of the water park. What's wrong with you? I was like, I'm sorry. It's actually in the Detroit race level, which is why I made it. The house, when you increase the graphics, is 18%, but when you decrease it, it goes down to 2, and it still looks the same.
That's some nice optimization there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's an
I've made
optimization that
a lot
we've
of houses
learned.
and dreams. I actually have a whole American house pack that has houses from the early and late 1900s to the early 2000s and the late 1800s. I love Victorian style, and I'm not really opposed to modern, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite. There's too many blocks looking like Minecraft out here, Roblox over here. Um, so modern, not really my go, but I love American colonial. The pillars in front of the house just makes it feel so grand and welcoming. So I like making colonial houses, but I have over what is it like, Russ? What is it like 50 houses now?
Yeah, like
I have a
loads and
lot.
loads of houses as well. And again, a lot of those you've made for MSR levels, initially.
Well,
Um,
I did do this 30 house challenge. I found a bunch of houses on Pinterest, and it was like 30 houses for whatever, and I was like, I could do that in dreams. So I started it, and I made 7, 8 houses in a week, and then I moved to Michigan. I didn't have my PlayStation, so I couldn't continue it.
You know what I've noticed? There's not a lot of on the Dreamiverse, and only because before I say this, nobody be like, "Oh, he's judging the verse." It's just everyone knows my problem is that I don't get to spend as much time in dreams as I would like. Like it's kind of one of those things where I jump on just to do the work that I need to do at that moment, and then I immediately got to go deal with life. But I've noticed a lot
Facts.
of people don't build actual like full houses inside and out. And
I'm
it's
doing that.
I like to hear that. But that's but that's something I've noticed, and it's like I'm not trying to call out anybody on it or anything because you're doing houses period. That's way more time than I got. But like and they look great. But I have noticed that people aren't doing like the full thing, but I also still don't blame them because I'd imagine
That
carving
would
that
take
out would be a lot
forever.
of work. Yeah, that's a lot
Yeah.
of work. You
Because I'm making a country house. It's based off of this house in Florida, and it's got a wraparound veranda and a gazebo, and it's 2 stories. It has 4 bed, 2 bath. It's got a massive dining room. It's a beautiful house. I started making it like 2 or 3 months ago, and then I kind of just stopped because I have this problem where I start a project and I'm just like, okay, I'm done, and I move on to something new. Like I think while I was making that house, I started San Francisco, actually, and it's got full interior, everything. It's thermally optimized. The whole house itself, without the furniture and everything inside of it, which I've made inside the level because the whole thing is remixable. You can use it to whatever. Like someone just literally made it for Wario dies in a big mansion. Like
Oh my God.
good for you. Um, good for you. Nintendo's not gonna come after you or nothing. All right.
No.
And it's a really nice house. It's just it's so big. There's so much space to fill, and I didn't want to use any of the assets from the Dreamverse, as amazing as they are. I wanted to create something that was completely me. That's not collabed with Russ, because everything
He's
we
trying to
have
break
is
out on his
collabed
own.
with each other.
Yeah.
He's trying to break out on his
I'm
own.
breaking
Don't trust
out.
him.
Breaking out.
I guess my next question would be like, where do you plan to take this? Like, was this a proof of concept for something else bigger that you're hoping you'll be able to make within Dreams, or like updates constantly, or, you know, you already anticipated the logic for when multiplayer drops? That's a lot of questions, but all around the same thing of what do you intend to do?
There is a plan. There is a big sort of roadmap. I have a big idea of how I see it. I think,
The Atlas, man.
yeah, I think there's a couple of factors really that sort of impact. The first one is obviously it's such a big project. It takes us so long to make each level because, you know, we are now at the point where 95% of the assets we're using are made by us. The only things that we're really not using from the only things we're using from the Dreamiverse are cars that are made by other people that we're like collaborating with anyway, and they're sort of, you know, doing stuff as part of the project for us. The chassis base, which is by Ninjana, which is the main kind of you know, the gameplay part for the drive in itself, and music, you know, and even some of the music I make. Although I must be honest, I prefer using people that actually know how to make music properly, their music, and I'd much rather have somebody make music for us, because you know it's kind of like I can make music, but it's not great. It kind of does the trick, but it's, you know, if I was going to release it, I would be like, nah, we need something better.
You're selling yourself short because Kmart Jazz is lit. Every time I go into Crescent City, I have to press play while I'm editing because I just want to hear dan dan dan. Like,
Hey, he's
it's
telling you,
lit.
believe in yourself.
I used to make music a long time ago, like on, you know, computer and stuff, and I got really obsessed with it for a while. You know, for a good few years, I was just totally on it, and I stopped doing it because I wasn't getting anywhere with it, and it took up so much of my time. And real life, you know, kind of comes and takes over.
Yep.
I kind of feel now that Dreams is doing the same sort of thing. You know, so much of my free time is spent on Dreams, making things on Dreams, and you know, yeah, just working on Dreams and trying to keep track of everything that's going on in the Dreamiverse as well. Um, while also, you know, trying to hold down life and family and job and all that sort of thing. It's difficult, especially now the pandemic's over and things are kind of going back to normal, and sort of that time is slipping away, you know, that I was used to when we sort of started the project. And also, I want to do other things. You know, there's this huge project of MSR, but then I'm also kind of like, oh, I want to do this or that, and there's lots of community projects going on. I mean, I just put out a level for Entropy's marble game, which, you know, I kind of got obsessed with for a good few weeks, um,
Yeah.
because I was like really in the zone with it, you know, creatively. And while I was making that, I wasn't really doing a hell of a lot on MSR. Um, you know, so it's difficult. It's difficult because it is such a big project. But I think we were talking about, you know, we're seeing things like we're seeing Noguchi's Bell obviously has got that Kickstarter, Splatty's Adventure, they're getting a Kickstarter sort of going. I don't know about that because there's still this really big question mark over Dreams as a commercial entity. I think MM have not made it clear yet what they intend to do with it going forward. I think there's a couple of things that really they should do as a matter of priority. I think the first thing is obviously clarify commercial use in terms of games and be able to have some sort of export functionality so you can export your Dreams game as an exe and play it outside of Dreams. I think that would be really important for it to be, you know, commercially viable. But something else which I think may be more, you know, more likely in the shorter term is the ability to export assets made in Dreams outside of Dreams into, you know, other software, into other 3D modeling formats to be able to be used, you know, in Unity and Unreal, because Dreams, the creation tools of Dreams are so good. they're on a par with what you can do in Unity or Unreal, and they're a hell of a lot easier. I've tried to dabble with Unreal and Blender and stuff in the past, and it's just so confusing. There's so many menus, and I'm not averse to learning programs and things. That's kind of what I do, but there was something about it that just didn't drag me in. I sort of dabbled for a bit, and then I lost interest because
It-
I couldn't really see where it was going to go. Whereas with
it's
Dreams,
not funny, or it's not fun.
it's not, and that's what Martin
Yeah.
LeBlanc always says when he's like a big champion of Dreams as a creative tool. He says that whenever he has to go back to his old ways of doing things now, he hates it because you've got to, do all your meshes and your rendering. You've got to wait for all the loading, and you've got to go to this program and that program and this program. With Dreams, it's just all there. It's like, right, I need to make something. Right, I need to texture it. Well, I do the texturing within the sculpt. Right, I put it in the level. Well, I'm already in the level. I want to add some sound effects. It's all there in one package. You don't have to mess about with exports and texture mapping and all that sort of thing that just ruins that artistic flow. And that's why, that's why people are drawn to Dreams. And I think that's what Sony and Media Molecule need to sell Dreams on, is that instant accessibility, that pick up and play, the fact that, if you're a half decent artist, you can pick it up and in a couple of hours you've got a pretty cool scene. You're seeing all these different art styles and things that people are making, and you're seeing people developing their crafts over time, and you're seeing accomplished artists with years of experience like Martin, showcasing the power of Dreams. And I can't understand why it's not like massive. I can't understand why it hasn't exploded in the art community. I feel like Dreams is such a niche thing, and it's sad because we love Dreams. We
Yeah, I
love
love.
everything about Dreams, but we want it to be bigger. We want people to be like, talking about Dreams in the same way that they talk about things made in Unity. I mean, I've seen stuff on Twitter and stuff that people have made in Unity, and it's like really basic stuff. It's like, oh, look at this, I've made this in Unity. Okay, cool. And then there's something next to it made in Dreams, right next to it, and it's like the one that's really basic made in Unity, there's like 100,000 likes, and the one that's made in Dreams, there's like 100. And it's like, but the thing made in Dreams is a million times more impressive than that 5-minute block test, So I don't know. I don't know why Dreams doesn't have more of a presence, in the art community and in the sort of creative community as a whole, because there's nothing else quite like it.
No
Really.
one. It's purely, and I'm trying to get into this before Jamie comes in, because I know that's when the rest of the podcast derails. But basically, nobody knows about it. Like that's why, and
No
it's like
marketing. There's absolutely no marketing
but
for this software. I mean, I've never seen a Dreams advert. I've never seen a TV show. Sorry, a TV commercial. I've never seen an advert in a magazine. I've never
Oh
seen
boy,
pop-up for it coming up.
you
It's like,
are preaching to the
I
choir.
know, I know, and
Mm.
I think
I've heard
Dreams
you
is
talk about
all.
this before, and I'm 100% with you. It's like
I've heard him
Sony
spiel about
dropped
this
the
for
ball
2
on Dreams.
hours.
Oh, you
I
should
think,
hear me when I
yeah,
start. This is my time.
I just think I just try to have, like, because we've talked about it so much that I haven't switched my opinion. I still agree with every single thing you're saying, but I'm like, it may not be at the speed we want, but they have to know. They have to know this
yeah.
is the feeling, and they have to be making moves, or they've already planned to make the moves. It's just not as fast as we think it should be growing, because we know we're in, as we always say on the show, Dreams is still in beta. That's truly how I believe it. It's in beta, and so it's
That was
like,
Minecraft.
lol. but yeah, it's like it's still in beta, and so for us, we're all like, we've gotten our hands on it, and we're like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. This is a game changer. We see no limit. It's like we've shot past the sky, out of the galaxy. Like, we know what's possible, but nobody else does. And so it creates this thing of like you said, looking at someone do something on Unity, and then someone do something in Dreams, and when people see Dreams, they're just like, "Oh, I heard that was a game or
What's
something."
that?
Yeah. But there's something else though that I don't know if this has ever been sort of brought up before, but it's something I was considering the other day. So you know how you've got Dream Queen, and basically when you buy Dreams, you automatically follow Dream Queen, and most people they don't unfollow Dream Queen. You know, there is the odd person that's like, no, I don't want to follow anyone at all. I'm going to unfollow the creators of the game. But most people they keep following Dream Queen. So currently, Dream Queen has 1.75 million followers, which means at least 1.75 million people have purchased Dreams. And my question is, out of those 1.75 million people, why are only less than 1,000 playing it a day? Like,
The
what
reason
happened to the other 1.749
it's
million people
it's
that they
super
thought, I'm
simple.
done with Dreams, I'm never going back?
It's
Because
it's super simple, and the answer to that is people bought the game thinking that it was going to be super easy. This was the game that makes it super simple to make games, and they jump into it and realize that actually no, it takes investment, time, effort to learn the tools and how to do it, and they just dropped out. And that's one of the main things with a creation engine for non-developers. It's always been the main issue, is making it as accessible as possible to keep that entertainment there so that the players continue to create. It's one of the main examples why Project Spark seemed to fail. And with Project Spark on Xbox, there was no sculpting. It was just using assets that was pre-made and you just stamped them in. So that was their way of keeping that initial interest there, is by just giving them all of the things that you need to create and just pop it in place. But then everything started to look the same. Everything was copy and pasted. People didn't like the logic system on it because it was like a weird card-based thing. It was really awkward. And then the main thing that made it fail was that they started charging for those asset packs. And then again, you'd be paying for that stuff and it would still look like everybody else's thing. So the only way for Dreams to be successful in the way that it has was to be able to create everything from scratch. So you have that originality, but with that originality comes time, effort, and resource. And unless you're willing to put that in, these 1.75 million people are going to drop out because they just expected it to be a game where you push a couple of buttons and everything's done and it looks high fidelity and great and you can release it and say, I made a game. But that's just not the reality when it comes to anything creative. Like, whether
no,
it be art, music,
absolutely,
or
Yeah,
whatever,
it's
you've
it's not
got to
game
put the
builder
effort in.
garage.
Yeah,
it's not. But
yeah,
I
precisely.
think the Entropy in the chat has brought up an interesting counter argument to that, which is that a lot of people would have bought Dreams because of what it offers outside of the creation tools to play, and now more than ever there is so much good stuff to play, and because have tamed the memes after the sort of nightmare first 6 to 9 months after release, where you literally just couldn't turn without seeing Wario dying in a
Oh,
completely
please,
unfunny way.
let's not go
Um,
there.
yeah, let's not.
I
But
just seen
since they
that.
bought, Ali and Jacob and the curation sort of thing, it's got so much better. It's so easy to find good stuff. Like I stream every week on Twitch and I just do a little thing of playing the best of the week. And it's literally just stuff that's caught my eye throughout the week that I've added to my play later queue. And I've always got a full show. I'm never sort of like, oh, I don't know, what should I play? There's so much stuff. The one I did on Wednesday, literally everything there was released in the last week. It was just gold. There was so much good stuff in a 7-day period. Not necessarily always games, because the amazing thing about Dreams is it's everything. It's not just games. It's art. It's music. It's showcases, animation. You've got everything that you could want in one place. Um, but what surprises me is that even with everything that is happening now in Dreams, with some of the amazing things that have come out in the last couple of months, Z Exodus, Pressure, Frontier, stuff that has got a huge amount of kind of presence. I mean, Frontier blew up social media. It got the Eurogamer did a article on it. They also did an article on Pressure by Great Scott, which is amazing, by the way. So these things are getting out there. But even with all of this, there is still not players that have bought the game. Bear in mind that everyone that was in early access has a digital copy, so they haven't sold their game. They've still got it. You can't lose your digital copy unless you lose your password and your account. So when we were in early access, there was stuff routinely getting like 10,000 likes and stuff. That was just normal. That was the player base. That was the amount of players that there were. But it just went downhill, and it got to about the summer of 2020 where it got quite low, and you sort of noticed every week there was like less players, and the things that were like the most thumbed up or whatever were lower. And then it had a bit of a resurgence with the VR update, which lasted maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then it just went downhill. And since about sort of November, December last year, it's been at about 1,500 players on average a day, which, how do you take that? Is that a lot? Is that? I don't think it is when you look at what was there in the early days when things were still in their formative years, and now we've got things that are fully formed, and there's not. People aren't coming back. I want to know where these people are.
I think
you have to come back.
I think you have to look at it in real life too, because if there was a huge initial burst because the pandemic, everybody was around. Everybody was forced to be around with nothing to do. Whereas, this would be, I'm not saying this is like a huge piece of the pie, but now people are starting to deal with the consequences of the pandemic. And with that, you have a lot of people who have quite a bit more to think about than dreams currently. It'll even itself out, I believe. But, not to turn this into my other podcast. But basically, I think that you're right. There was that initial burst. There is the excitement. And you're like, where are the people now? And the beautiful part, I think, that is another way to look at the way you're framing it is the main part is, unless due to those other circumstances we talked about, they still have dreams. So even if they leave for a while, even if they were like, you know what, I don't want to create games. I can't find anything enough to play, these beautiful creations that they, again, might have the game, but don't know exist. They're not as tied to the social media of dreams as we are. But when something comes out that truly starts getting touted, because I don't believe the main push for dreams has started yet. One of the main reasons one of the main reasons at least most of the people I talk to can't remember a dreams commercial or an ad or anything is because it didn't happen. There was one or two memes, two GIFs. And so people remember the two GIFs, and that was all of the marketing. But I do believe it's coming, and I do believe with, like you said, all of these big things that are coming out, there is going to be that person who has left for the last couple of months, maybe the last year, and is just like, oh, but I heard this is going on. Let me put that back in. Let me check that out. And when they check it out, they're going to see a whole new dreams. But we just have to wait till they get wind of the thing that's going to make them go, oh yeah, I do own that game. Let me see what that's about. Or until, the marketing does ramp up and, people are like, oh yeah, I do like games. And then they come back and play dreams. It's just, I think people
that
are.
Voice changed though.
Well, I believe people. I do got dreams, but people do. But then people also, because what surprised me about a week ago, I made a post when dreams went on sale on Twitter, and I basically was like, if you you or your children are creative, if you have a PlayStation, if you like a Game Pass collection of games and unending art content that you'd like to scroll through, you need to pick up Dreams. And what surprised me about that, not only was there Cap coming out of the woodwork being like, yo, this has 3 likes, and he starts reposting, he guilted people into retweeting, which was awesome. But A lot of the likes that I got on that post were from people that weren't in Dreams.
Which is perfect.
And that kind of changed, that kind of been like, okay, well, just give them time. Just keep working on what you're working on, keep perfecting your craft, keep doing it up, and people will come. Just be a little more patient. Because I'm not when it comes to this stuff. I'm like, guys, this is awesome. Get your butts over here. Like,
yeah, and I think you asked a bit earlier about where do you see it going with this project, and I think one of the things is that we know Dreams is a long-term project, and we know that right now the player base isn't there. So even when we release stuff, it's not getting like the traction that we would like necessarily.
Yeah.
But our thing is like we want to release a full game with all of this stuff in one, and that's going to take time. But we've got that time because, like you say, have a plan. are, they're doing these creator updates now over the next few months. They're listening to the community. They're improving things. They're giving us a calculator, which is going to be awesome. Like a calculator with proper maths functions and things, which is just going to be a game changer for the more advanced logic. They've already now given us thermo decimals, which is something I've been screaming about for the last like 2 years. Like, why can't I
That's
tell
the
whether it's
truth.
1.1 or 1.9? And now we finally know, and you can finally see the truth, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's only 1.1%, but you're telling me it's 2. Interesting. So it's that's helping, especially with like that optimization thing, because we're always like, oh, I just added this thing and it says it's 3, but it's only taken up 1%. What's going on? But it's because of the way that the thermo is reporting, and the fact that it basically rounds up in the stupidest way, where 1.01 rounds up to 2 rather than go in the normal, mathematical rounding of over half goes to. But yeah, they've got this plan, and obviously they've got a lot of things that they're working on, and they've got all these things on the Trello, and obviously we know about multiplayer, we know it's coming, and we know that's going to be a game changer when it does come, because that's going to bring a lot of people, and that's going to bring a lot of creators that are going to be like, oh, I'm going to create a multiplayer game now, and these sort of ideas that they've had in the back of their minds or they've been prototyping and things, they'll be like, right, I actually have something to put this into now. I have a reason to make this game, so we know it's coming, like you say, and I think you're right, and I feel like certainly my way of thinking has kind of gone more towards yours, Will, in the last sort of few months. I've stopped worrying so much about it because I have realised that there's a couple of things at play. First of all, are playing the long game, but second, they've also been delayed by the global event. So all these things that they've been wanting to do, they've not been able to work together for over a year. It's very difficult to work on stuff like that when you're not together, when you're not with each other every day in the office or whatever, and having all those ideas bouncing around and being able to do things in real time and all that sort of thing. It really does put a crimp in that kind of creativity and that collaboration. So they've just been doing what they can with the limited sort of functionality they've had, and I think now we are seeing the start of MM's grand plan and Sony's big 10-year plan, is debuting. And I think it started with this first creator update. I think it is much more now about making sure that this is going to be on a par with something like Unity or Unreal. The sort of level of control that you're offered, the tools that you're given, are going to increase. And yeah, I'm just really, really excited to sort of see where it goes and how that impacts the community, and how that impacts Dream's kind of wider appeal as well.
Go
I
ahead,
think
Jeremy.
that when it comes to the plan of Dreams as well, you also have to account a lot of what Sony wants to do with it, because ultimately, Media Molecule is a Sony first-party studio, so everything where it comes to budget and how they intend to roll out all these updates and all the different things that Media Molecule want to do obviously has to go through Sony in one way or another. And I think that, with the whole 10-year plan that we're looking at here, like we've said before, and Will's mentioned it many times, we're still in the beta. But what you also have to consider is that Dreams in itself is a very risky investment to begin with. We've seen many big companies try this before and fail, and it seems to me that Dreams is the only one that's managed to make it stick and do it correctly. So just from the get-go of the conceptualization of Dreams altogether is a risky thing to make. The reason why I think it's going to work so well is because Media Molecule have done this in the past with Little Big Planet. And we've seen 3, 4, 5 million created levels in Little Big Planet 2, and that's really where Media Molecule has shined. They've managed to pull in those creators into a creative platform where they can make stuff, and I think that's why Sony has this 10-year investment with Media Molecules, because they have the successful history with how to create something like this, but Dreams is obviously on a much larger scale. But still, it's still a risky business. And obviously, Sony are always going to look at the money. And that's ultimately the way that they're always going to see things. They're not going to see the creative side and the passion of the players. Unless it's profitable and it's making money, we're going to shut it down. So I think for right now, obviously, the most important thing for Dreams to get itself off the ground, and again, we're still in the very early stages of Dreams' life cycle, is getting the players is not what we need right now from Sony's perspective. We need the creators, because without the
Yeah.
things for the players to play, there's going to be no content, so the players are going to go. So I think that's why we see such a low play rate on Dreams, is because everything is focused primarily on creators, because we need the creations for people to play. And creators don't necessarily have time to play things because everybody's making their own stuff. So that's why the play rate, comments and likes and everything on games like yourself is lower than you would initially expect. It's because Dreams is not focused on players right now. And I think that the whole lockdown situation has been hugely beneficial to Sony in that regard, because it's given the creators more time to get this stuff out. And I think that Dreams is in a great position where we have more content in the time that Dreams has been out, essentially, than it would have done without the lockdown, because people wouldn't have had the same amount of time to invest into Dreams. So, as of right now, yeah, things are not as great as we think they are, but I think ultimately Sony has this master plan of, okay, let's get the creators happy, let's get the content out there. Once we get to this kind of threshold where we're happy with the level of quality, because obviously Sony knows, unless the quality is there, you're not going to get the average player into Dreams. It's different for us because we're in this Dreams bubble. When
Yeah.
we see something that is not necessarily up to the fidelity that we would naturally expect from a game outside of Dreams, it's easily accepted because we know what it takes to make something in Dreams, and we get these Dreams goggles of the fuzziness and the flex and everything. We know what it's like because we're dreamers. But to someone outside of Dreams, seeing something flecky and fuzzy and no straight lines, it's an instant turn off, because we're used to this perfect world of everything has to be 4K, ray tracing, ultimate reflections, auto HDR, and all these pretty things that we're used to in gaming now. So we have to get to that threshold where the creators have had enough time to build those high fidelity assets, so that when the initial players that aren't dreamers come into the Dreamiverse, they're not going to instantly be, oh no, that's horrible, I don't want to play anything else, it all looks the same and it's fuzzy. So there is these growing pains with Dreams that we have to get through initially before we can get to that place where we all want to be. And
Yeah.
ultimately, Sony knows this. They make games themselves. They know what it takes and the effort that it does to get something to the level of quality where it's accepted as amazing. So
Yeah.
it's all part of that master plan. And I think that once we get to that level where Sony is happy, I think we'll see a huge increase in marketing. I think they've got the budget there, the piggy bank's ready to go. They're just waiting for the creators to catch up to the speed that they want them to be. And once we get to that threshold, it's going to go out the bag. And I think we're going to see it pretty soon, because not only, with the player base and everything right now, I think people are still making their initial creations from the beta. People have these huge game ideas. I mean, for ourselves, Dino is such a huge game. Like, we know it's going to take a long time to make it, even though we've got a large team. Like, we've got 7 or 8 people working on this thing, but we still know it's not going to happen overnight because of the scale of the project.
Yeah.
And I think people have started those projects initially from the beta. So I reckon within the next year or so, we're going to see some crazy Dreams drop on the platform. And that's when I think Sony's going to be like, yeah, we're at this level now. Let's start marketing for the players. and I reckon
Yeah.
that's when multiplayer will also drop at the same time. Consequently,
So Olet said in chat that Jemmy has a point. We do look at Dreams content through rose-tinted glasses. I don't. Like
No.
I really don't feel I do. Like if it, maybe I look at it through art tinted glasses. Maybe that's because the thing is like I see games of all different qualities and non-qualities that non-quality not in the sense of not being a good game or made well, but in a style that anybody who doesn't know the layman's would look at it and be like, oh, they took kids' drawings. And it's like, but you don't see how that's not a kid drawing. Like,
but the difference is there, though, is that you're an artist. And what I'm talking about is your average casual gaming consumer that just doesn't look at things like that. If they don't see the high quality assets they're out.
I don't know.
It's just the world we live in now.
I feel like that the gaming market. Yeah, I'm coming for you, baby. No, just I feel like you can't say that when some of the most successful games and heavily touted games in the last couple of years have been indie games that don't necessarily take advantage of those things. Like, I mean, I can't say, like, you can look at things like Celeste and which is like heavily popular, and then look at some of the 2D stuff that's being created in Dreams. I mean, I'm the name of it, the sci-fi 2D shooter of Solar Solar Blast? Yeah, like I can't, or yeah, Willow brought up Valheim. Like you can say people want this stuff, and yeah, you're gonna have your Call of Dutyers and all those people who are gonna be like, oh, now I can cock my gun in 4K times 2. Like, yeah, you're gonna have those
Call
people.
of Duty's a waste of time.
But yeah, but you're gonna
That's
have
all
those
I gotta
people.
say.
But then again, like I said, the most touted games, like not just the commercially successful because they were marketed out of the wazoo with like Hollywood level marketing budgets, but just like the games that people are truly being attached to and love have been indie. It's been the growing trend. So I don't.
Absolutely, I agree with you. No, I agree with you on that point. But there's still, like, even with those styles, like all the different styles that we have with indie. You have your posterized and all these different beautiful styles that indie games seem to do really well because it just doesn't work in AAA because it's too risky. That's why indie is so amazing, because they do risky stuff because they don't care. But even so, those styles have been perfected in these indie games, and they look right. And that takes time to do in Dreams because everything is typically based on just 3D platforming. Like that is where I feel Dreams really drives you is into 3D and into platforming. That's kind of where it initially starts you off with. So learning how to do these other genres in Dreams and these other art styles takes a lot of time to perfect. And if it's not done correctly, it will still look like everything else because of how the flex system works in Dreams. You have to work extra hard to make your art style look unique in Dreams because of the way that the engine works itself. So I agree with you that indie, yes, like indie is where it's at, and all these other art styles are extremely popular, and AAA is AAA because of how it is. But still, these art styles need to be perfected in Dreams to still reach that clarity where an indie player will go in and accept it as it is at face value.
I just think we needed that extended fog. Like,
I think,
no, I get what you. Oh, go ahead, Atheist.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, you're talking about like the sort of AAA and things. I think, the Metro Street Racer, we're trying with the graphics, we're trying to go for that high fidelity kind of look as much as we can, because we've grown up playing these racing games, Need for Speeds and Project Gotham Racing and all that sort of thing. And that's just a given with these racing games. I mean, I fell in love with racing games when I first played Ridge Racer on the PlayStation 1, and it blew me away. And then Gran Turismo came out a couple of years later, and I was like, whoa, I recognize those cars. Those are actual real cars. And that was like groundbreaking kind of thing. And it's just got better and better with that fidelity. And you've now got, your 4K car models and stuff. The gameplay is still fundamentally the same. Like Gran Turismo Sport and Gran Turismo 1 fundamentally the gameplay is almost the same, but the graphical fidelity has improved so much that I'm one of these people that unfortunately, I just can't go back to old games because I don't know. Some people, they find it endearing. I just look at it and go, oh my god! Like, I used to sit and play that for like 4 hours, and it's like that now hurts my eyes. Especially if you're playing it on a big TV because everything is like blown up and enhanced.
Yeah, I
So I
do feel
get that
like
idea of this. There's a certain level, I think, that gamers expect when it comes to fidelity, when it comes to graphics. I'm not really that bothered about stuff like ray tracing. I mean, if I'm honest with you, I couldn't even explain what ray tracing is. I know it's something to do with light, but apart from that, I'm not really sure. My main thing is that I just like it when things look like they're supposed to, and I think because we're going with that realism look,
Mm. Yeah.
then we're going for that kind of, with our assets and things, we're trying to go for that realistic look, and we're trying to make dreams not look like dreams. I think that's one of the things that we've always been striving for with what we're making, is we're always like, oh well, that doesn't even look like dreams. And if it doesn't look like dreams, then that's good for us. That's our
Yeah.
job done, because that's kind of our
Mm.
goal, is to go away from the flex and to move away from that kind of fleckiness. Don't get me wrong, there's a place for it, as an art style, and there's some brilliant examples of it in the Dreamiverse. But very early on, it was people like insane artists that were particularly inspiring, of how they made something that was, made in dreams, but just didn't look like it was made in dreams.
Yeah.
Bad Robo as well, Martin LeBlanc, with some of the realistic sort of things they're doing, to name just a few. Um, People that are sort of pushing that realism envelope. And I think the only thing that really is getting in the way of it when it comes to games at the moment is this thermo. I think once we get the PS5 version, the proper PS5 version, which we all know is coming, why would it not? And I think that will be when, like you say, multiplayer, and when the big marketing push, it's all going to come together, because it'll be like, look, almost like a relaunch, and they'll be able to say, we've had 3-4 years of people creating on dreams. This is the best of the best. This is what
Yeah.
they're making.
And
Now you go
and
and you make the
and
next
this
big
is this is
thing.
the thing as well, like with all the major games that's released in Dreams as of right now, like the big top Dreams games, like that they've pushed the PS4 to its absolute limits in regards to graphical fidelity. Like when this native PS5 version comes out, I reckon it's going to be so easy to just up the graphics and like
Yeah,
change it
we're
from
literally just going to go in. You'll be like, increase, increase,
and
increase, increase,
just
and everything
increase
is just going to look
everything.
so
So
sharp. It's going to be
so
The
amazing.
like
palm trees. Mm.
but that's
Exactly.
Trees
what I
don't
mean. Like
look like me.
they've got this back
oh
catalog
boy.
now of content. Sony's got this back catalog of content where they're like, okay, well, this is the main stuff that we want to show. So
Mm.
when the PS5 update
Yeah.
comes out, these creators can just up the graphics 100% more, so it looks even better, and that
No,
will entice
500.
the casual players in, because ultimately that's
12,000.
what that's what that's what the console market is. It's casual players, and unfortunately we live in a world now where we are spoilt for choice, and we're
Yeah.
spoiled with games and with all these high quality assets and the push to do better in game development. We've become spoiled as a gaming community in general to
Mm.
expect a certain level of fidelity and clarity with whoever it comes from. So I think the PS5 is really going to help with that, because they can just bump up the graphics on everything and make a beautiful marketing video for it, and boom, yeah, it's going to be
Yeah,
great.
and,
Can I?
and I think there's a lot of
Okay.
stuff that's going to really benefit from that. A lot of amazing titles out there that right now, are limited, but stuff like Frontier and Pressure, two of the more recent
Yeah.
ones.
Mm.
You can tell, like Frontier in particular, because of its massive map size. You can see where the optimization or the limitations have really hindered them there. The trees and the ground texturing and things. Because you're across such a massive area, and something like
Oh, the
that
trees.
is
Trees.
something like that is going to be
And I have a
massively
problem.
benefited from that expanded memory and the extra graphics and the extra gameplay.
I have
That
a
would make
problem with
sense.
Frontier because they have one of my trees that I made like a long time ago. I made it to be the most realistic tree I've ever made. It is 10% graphics and you cannot get it down. They only have 4 of them. I literally went around the map and I was like, this
No.
is one of my best trees. They literally only have 4 of them. And I was like, well, that's where their graphics went. Because I did not make it for a racing game. I made it for a walking simulator that I did with Ian, Sane Artist. Because we've collabed like several times. He's one of my closest friends. And, we challenge each other to make trees sometimes. I was like, let's do a redwood. We made a redwood. He made a redwood. I made a redwood. I asked him to make a palm tree. He came out with a palm tree. And basically we just like challenge. We have a tree off. We have a tree off like every 3 months or so. And
I love this whole tree thing. I really, really do. I just love that you're the tree guy. It just really gets me in a good place. I love it. I love it so
yeah,
much.
people look at me and they don't think, oh, you're a tree boy.
Well, you will be now.
He's all about the trees. I'm all about the cars.
I've been a tree boy since I was 2. It's literally my nickname in the family. I walk through the door and they're like, hey, tree boy's here.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's next level. That's next level right there.
It's literally been my nickname since I was like 3 years old.
So I want to talk. I want to take a moment. I want to take a moment to talk about. I want to know if anybody else has this problem, and it's a problem that I've realized about dreams. Is dreams stopping you from playing other games?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I have a problem.
Oh my God.
Because there are games that I'm like so amped about, and then I'm like, oh my God, I want to play these games. I'm not a guy that buys a lot of games. To me, I get kind of like snobby about games. I'm just like, I will only play the cream of the crop. I will not waste my time. I will not waste my time until something can revolutionize gaming. Like, I get that way sometimes about gaming. So, like, I'm playing, like, basically, I have all these games like Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, Kana, games that aren't even on the console. I've been playing a bunch of stuff, and I played them for like 2 hours, and I don't get bored. I'm like, yo, this game is dope. Back to Dreams. Like that's it. Just
to put it in perspective, I have 32 games installed on my PC that I have yet to play. I have downloaded them. They are installed. They're ready to go. But I'm always just like, yeah, I know, but I need to get on Dreams. I've got to do stuff. I'm literally downloading Jet the Fast Shore now, and I have no idea why I'm downloading it, because I know it's just going to sit in the library amongst everything else and not get played for months, because Dreams just takes up too much of my time.
The problem with Dreams is there's always something to do in Dreams. There's a level to build, there's an asset to make, there's something you need to optimize, there's some logic that you need to work out, there's some community creations that you need to check out because you want to, so even I feel like Dreams is actually most of my gaming time, like outside of the creator. So it's almost like, well, I'm not going to bother putting on a game, I'll just play something in Dreams. So Dreams, as well as being this like creative addiction, it's also fueling my need for gameplay in the most part as well. I mean, I can count on one hand the different games that I've played outside of Dreams since I got Dreams, or since I started using Dreams, because remember, I didn't use it for the first year because I didn't like motion control, and I still don't use motion control at all. I just can't stand it, so I'm just sticks all the way, which Tree Boy here finds extremely weird.
Oh my God.
But
you can't use that. No.
No, the motion controls are super intuitive once you get used to them. I couldn't live without them.
I tried again the other day, and I was trying to just paint something, and I'm like, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my motion controller on the settings or what, but I am all over the place, and I'm just like, I get it. If you're trying to do something like curvy or whatever, it's going to be easier if you're trying to do painting. But the things I mainly make are geometric. I make, buildings and cars and vehicle things, which the sort of geometric shapes and things, um, just work well for me. And I honestly, I think even if you bought me a set of moves, I would just not be able to use them. I would not be able to pick it up. I feel like it's one of those things that I got so used to using the sticks for my creating, that I just couldn't switch. I would have to like totally relearn the game from scratch, and I'm not prepared to do that because I'm in a groove, with the way that I work. And I think also the other reason I couldn't do motion control is because when the early access came out, my daughter, she was only like 1 year old, and you can imagine how difficult it is trying to do motion control stuff when she's climbing all over you. So yeah, I was trying to do tutorials, and I couldn't even put the cone on top of the circle cylinder properly because I could not work it out. I'm an idiot when it comes to motion control. I've never liked motion control in anything, at all, and so Dreams has not changed my opinion on that at all. But yeah, how did I get on to talking about motion control? I don't even know how we got onto this topic of motion control. I've totally lost my train of
Seriously, every time I watch you in SharePlay, I'm just like, go over there. No, to the left. To the left. And it's just seems so slow to me.
There are obviously some benefits, like the way that you were able to drag things in 3 dimensions, like pull it towards you and stuff. Obviously, I can't do that, but I just manipulate the camera and zoom out, drag it across. I mean, I can work with it. It's fine. It's not a problem for me, and I honestly feel it's just be more hassle for me to learn a new way, than
I've already
just.
pestered you about motion control for months. I'm
There
not.
will
Well,
co-
and
We're
so
not
there will
going.
come a
We're not
time.
my
going
owl
there.
is always like, you got to just take a bit of time to learn motion control. And I'm like, I don't have any time. I don't have time to learn motion control because I've got all these things to do. All these things we just talked about with Dreams. I haven't got
Calm
time to sit
down.
there and learn motion control.
It's
There
time to
will-
calm down.
About motion control.
There will come a time. That's what I tell myself because I feel the same way about motion controls personally. I've only ever used it once, suspiciously enough, to work on detailing a tree and a palm tree
Bad
at that.
option. Bad option.
See, you say these things. However, it was the best tree I ever made. I know you'd probably wipe your butt with it, but I was proud of what I did in that good 30 minutes of trying to work on a tree because it was also my
I gotta
first
see
time.
this tree, man.
Nah, you'll never see it. I'll never release it to you. I will not be judged by you.
Yeah.
No,
Not a tree god.
No, I'm not judgy unless it literally looks like something.
I've seen
Sir,
you. Go
you
into
just-
trees and you
sir,
like,
you just spent the first 30 minutes of this podcast talking trash about trees. I will not believe
You
that
have
you
no
are
ground.
judgy.
You have no ground, tree guy. You have no ground.
He's just gonna he's gonna look at it.
Let me get real.
Yeah.
Y'all step up your game and I won't be judgy.
Yeah, see, there you go. That's what I'm saying. But I'm learning. I'm trying to step up my game, bro. But I'm just saying I'm not gonna put it out there and then have you just be on live stream and be like, ew.
Look at this.
Gross.
This is so gross.
I don't talk like that. I usually say
Oh, no.
incorrect, false.
Oh no. Oh well, yes. So you go
False.
you go the whole Ultron. False. No, but yeah. No, but yeah, I mean I'm just saying.
Destroy it.
Oh no,
Man, I'll snap
Falconrich. I'm gonna go unlist my tree right now. That's what I'm saying, man.
talking about.
But no,
what we were talking about before I segued into talking about motion control. We were talking about not having the time to play play games
Oh yeah.
outside of Dreams.
Dude,
But I do want to stay on the motion control thing for a moment because I identify with you hating them as well as being like, I don't have time to learn a new way to interact with this game. I'm already strapped for time. But I feel like there will come a time where it'll be like, you need to do something or I need to do something. And I'm going to be like, I know, and I've seen enough people do it to know that I need to use a motion control to get the end quality that I want. And that's good.
Well,
That's going to be the thing that
for me,
forces
that's
you.
just where I hit Randy up, and I just go, "Yo, do your thing."
See, I've done that so
Really
far
likes
too.
this.
I say that. I'll say that to Spicy Waffles in chat, or I'll say that to Willow, who's also in chat. I'll just be like, guys, I need y'all to handle that. I can't do that. But
just
there will,
right quick.
yeah, there'll come a time though. There'll come a time, I believe, where it's just like you might get an idea, you might not be willing to share it with Tree God just yet, and you'll be like, "Let me work
Oh
on
my
this.
God.
Let me,
He's evolved.
let me,
Oh my
let me work." Yeah, the tree deity can't see it in its final form like just yet, so you might work on something.
Over
And
9,000.
yeah, basically.
I feel like one of the things I should probably try is lowering the sensitivity, because honestly, when I tried it again the other day, I felt like I had no control at all. I was trying to just draw an S shape. I was trying to draw some lettering, and I thought, oh, I'll try doing it. I'll try doing it using the motion control. It's like I was trying to reel in a big fish. It was just going all over the place.
I'm gonna tear a
I could
bicep.
not do anything I wanted. I had about 6 or
full
7
workout.
attempts. I thought, nope. Options, back to the, yep, there we go. And then I drew an S using my pad, and it looked better. And I was like, there we go. That's why I don't use motion control.
Yeah, I mean, I've made the argument many times because people keep getting on my case about when I talk about motion controls. But whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever peripheral you're
Right.
most comfortable with, is usually the best one for you to use. And
I concur. Yeah, definitely. Because if I sit down and I'm just like, and I'm in the groove, I'm not even thinking about it. It's muscle memory.
Yeah.
It's just natural. Whereas if I'm having to think about the motion control and like, and also the thing with like, if you don't hold it perfectly straight, the imp starts going. It's like, oh, so annoying. Like when I tried that, the way that you have to hold it straight, otherwise you end up. And also I've noticed that it's very easy to accidentally grab something in a level and just totally twist it in a really weird way,
The
because
roads
you
in
accidentally
California
hold the
twice.
button and you're twisting your motion control. Like I rarely do that using sticks, but I've seen that happen a lot. Even like working on Dreams Fest and things, where I've gone into a level to optimize it, and there's been a bunch of buildings. Like Randy made a cityscape background, and I think someone, I won't say who, but they'd been in there doing some animation or whatever previously, and they'd saved the level. And I came into it, it was like, why is Sydney tilted at 11 degrees? And literally the whole group was just like down.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, yeah, somebody had obviously accidentally grabbed it, not realized, saved it, and there we go. So I feel like stuff like that is easy to do accidentally with emotion controls. But yeah, whatever's comfortable is best generally, and everyone works
Right.
differently. Everyone sort of has their own way of getting what they want out of it, and their own. As long as you get your end result, then it doesn't really matter.
yeah, yeah. So, is there anything else, any other projects y'all would like to speak about before we wrap up today?
Let's see. Well, I'm really enjoying Entropy's Marble
I am as
multiverse,
well. I
and we are
have.
both making levels. Well, I just published mine, and Randy is still in the process of making his, even though he started his way before me. But I've been a bit more. I don't know. I've just got really into mine, whereas he's sort of like in and out of it. In Randy's the sort of person that he'll do something one day and then he'll go into something else and something else, and he sort of bounces around between projects. And he's like that in MSR as well. He'll have like a day of just like, or two of just like solidly like inspiration, and then he'll just drop it
That's just
and move
artist
on to
brain,
something else.
man. Seriously.
Yeah,
During
I'm
this
not
stream,
really
I
an
was
artist.
drawing.
Oh, we
Oh,
have
no.
lost James. he
Oh,
just
no.
During the stream, I was
We
drawing,
lost
so
we lost Jamie, and it threw everything off. But he
we
will
now
be
have the
back.
upside down pyramid, which just totally doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It changed everything. But maybe it's that what do you call it? That UK internet. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on, but it feels like the UK, like it's the biggest worry I have because there's
the
the
UK is
possibility.
fighting the US right now.
Well, everyone's
They
fighting
want
Twitch
to
right
see
now,
back.
so yeah, I am Jamie now. So yeah, I'm not gonna go into a British accent. Not doing it. Don't even ask. I know you're about to.
Oh, you sure about that?
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Not gonna do
Mm-mm.
it. Not
Mm-mm.
gonna do it.
Mm-mm. But
You sure?
basically, well, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm
Okay.
positive. I'm
Okay. I
positive.
think he gonna do it though. I think he gonna do it.
I'm not. I'm not. But because he hates when I do it, and it's
But
because
he's not.
yeah,
He's not on right
he's
now.
not here. But still, I'd be disrespecting. I'd be disrespecting. Oh, he had a power cut. He's in chat. He's in chat.
That's just the worst.
He is here. See, if I had started doing something, he would have been like, "Yo, Mighty, I see you. I see you're not being
You can
slick."
stop that right now. You stop that right now.
He's here in spirit.
You mean that hasn't been your British accent all this time? What? Why? Is it because I speak clearly and precisely? Is it?
You mind
is
if I
that-
cut in right now? I wanted to go back to the topic about games, like the fact that nobody's been playing games. I used to play Skyrim 16 hours a day. Like I did not leave my bedroom or anything at all. And then I bought Dreams, and then Skyrim hasn't existed. Like I played it so much. I pretty much had the game like beat. I had 6 different characters that were at level 90. That's how much I played it. And I knew the ins and outs. I knew every city. I knew every civilian, every NPC, every single person. And as soon as Dreams came along, now I'm just like, who are you? What's this? What's this mission I'm doing? What's going on? Is that a dragon? Like, and I used to play Minecraft all the time, but now Minecraft doesn't exist to me. I get on
used to be
Minecraft and I'm
like
just
that.
like,
yeah.
I'm just like, this is what I played for like over 850 hours on my Xbox 360. There's so many limitations in Minecraft. It's still a great game, but there's so many limitations because I'm the type of person that likes to build, to create. And with Minecraft, you only have so many blocks. You only have 150 blocks to play with. And, that just doesn't work, especially if you want more textures. So, yeah, I just wanted to jump back to that right quick.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a really big
play
thing.
GTA. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Athi.
I used to play GTA Online a lot, like a lot. I was always playing it with Americans. I was in a crew that was focused on the creator, and GTA had like the most limited creator, but the stuff that people were able to do with it was incredible. To be able to work with a limited amount of props and stuff to make missions and races and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I played that game like solidly for 3 years, and then I just one day I just kind of decided like I was just done with it. That was before Dreams, but that was the last sort of big gaming obsession I had really, and since then I've had less time with family and work and careers and stuff like that to dedicate that much time. So Dreams is the first thing that's been that for me really in a good few years. And it's funny because I wasn't even necessarily going to get involved with it, because I remember a friend of mine who I've known for years, he was like, oh, Dreams from like 2016, he was raving about it, oh, this is going to be amazing. And I was just thinking, I don't have the time for Dreams. This sounds like the sort of thing that is just going to destroy my life.
That's ironic.
Because he was just like, you can make anything. And I was like, I don't want to know. And then as it got closer to launch and I was watching some of the videos and I was like, this does actually look really good. And then I thought, you know what? I'll get the early access just so I can see what people are doing. And I got the early access and I didn't like the motion control and I didn't really touch it for a year after that. But yeah, I think really the pandemic, I think if we hadn't have had this pandemic, I probably would not have would not have got into
You would have
Dreams.
never met me.
I'd have never met you. I'd have never got into Dreams. I would probably be one of those 1.75 million players following Dream Queen, but not even turning Dreams on because I didn't have the time and my early experience of it was poor. I don't know what I'm doing. This is too hard. There's too many memes. Why is Wario dying all the time? Can't somebody make something good? Um,
When
yeah.
he was at his last hope, I think when I released Alana Beach, he was just like, "Where did you come from?"
Well, it wasn't. It was that eye-opening thing. It was like there is more to dreams than memes, and it was that sort of early realization that it was possible to do what I actually envisioned. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say collaborating with people, is amazing because I think you get very limited when you're working on your own with things. You get limited creatively. You get limited with what you're able to do. Neither of us knew much. No, neither of us knew anything about logic. And so when we first released our first iteration of MSR, we used Ninjuana's chassis as it was out of the box with a few slider adjustments. And, it was god awful. The handling was dreadful. I mean, if you go back and play our first
The
version now, the car is
Camaro.
just so bad because we had no idea what we were doing. And luckily, Night Owl played it and saw the potential and offered his help. And that sort of spawned the three-person team that is kind of the core now, with him doing all of the logic-y stuff and letting us deal with the design and the arty side of things, which works out perfectly. But I think me and Randy really work well as a duo because we bounce off each other so well. Like we're very different people. We're from different backgrounds. We're obviously very different in age and generation and things. But we bounce off each other in our ways of working and our artistic approaches. And he'll do something in a level, and I'll come to it, and then I'll add on to it based on what he's done, and then that sort of sets a template, if you like. And then he'll look at what I've done, he'll be like, "Oh, okay," and he'll do something, and that's kind of how our collaborative process works. And it also works, with things like the marble level that we're making. I started making it, and I had this grand idea of this sort of cityscape, cyberpunk kind of uh, utopia with lots of trees and things. And I always have this idea in my head. I have this idealized version in my head, but there's no real planning goes into things outside of very loose kind of ideas floating around. And so I put down some basic stuff and I got some assets down and I sort of set something up and I was kind of like, I'm not really feeling this too much. And then Brandy sort of came in and he put some trees in um, to use that he hadn't published
To
yet.
the
And he
trees.
also, he also put in a new building that he made that I watched him make and on SharePlay. And because he was showing me like some techniques, that's another thing we learn from each other, in that way as well. But he put this building in and he made this sort of really tall kind of apartment complex. And it sort of just changed the level for me, and it made me realize that I needed to go vertical. And I had like a sort of, yeah, just an explosion of inspiration then, as a result of that small sort of addition that he made to the level. And that's just typical, I think, of the way that we work. There are some things that I think um, I enjoy doing more, and there are some things he enjoys doing more. He enjoys doing like the landscaping and the little details and things. I enjoy the big, grand kind of scope. So when we do like the bigger city levels, like Windy City and Empire, New York and Chicago, those are less nature based, if you like. And so I sort of end up taking the lead on those. And then with the more naturey based ones like Miami and New Orleans, he takes the lead on because he has a clearer vision of what the aesthetic will be. And yeah, it just all kind of comes together through a combination of, I guess, chaos theory and lots of building and breaking down and building and breaking down. There's lots of iterative build that occurs before we're happy with the final result. But I wouldn't change that, because I think that's just what makes our partnership work. Is that collab, is that approach that we have.
Some levels I do kind of just like start on my own. Like I started this South Central level because I wanted to do something in LA, but I didn't want to do like Hollywood, places that people would be like, oh, well, this is already in another game, like other racing games. I was talking about doing Venice Beach or Hollywood or Beverly Hills, and I was just like, so I had Watch Friday that week, and I was like, what if I did South Central? I think that would be cool. So I started a whole South Central, and I did it in like a week, and we're still working on it. And it's been like, what, 6-7 months now? We're trying to get the logic,
Again,
and
it's
I've
got
replaced.
torn and rebuilt. I mean,
Right. Right. It's been rebuilt twice, and we haven't even released it yet. I've replaced houses twice. I've replaced the trees 4 times already. I've replaced street lights, and we've done new buildings, new roads, new everything. Like, it doesn't even look like how it started. But it's probably one of our most realistic tracks, because I was able to fit in a lot more, because I have more optimized plants and more optimized houses. Everything looks better, and honestly, I think it's one of my favorites. San Francisco, when I went back into it, that I really wanted it to feel more dense, because I was playing Watch Dogs too, so I got a lot of inspiration off of Watch Dogs. So I came back in there and I made new buildings, which took forever because San Francisco detail, and it looks so much better now. And that's the one that we have in the demo, I believe. And that looks so much better. And the next one I want to work on is Detroit after I do Miami and California, because Detroit got out of hand. Since it's my hometown, I was trying nitpick every little detail. Like, I had the Detroit Medical Center in there, which is like 1.5 miles away from downtown. Like, there was no reason for having it. And then I had a whole hood area called Cass Avenue. Losing my voice here. Cass Avenue, which is not the best place to live. And I also wanted, different areas. The hood's so bad, you walk up in there just being who you are, you gonna get shot. Anywho, I grew up in that area, so I just wanted more. I wanted more Detroit, and then I started this little like suburb, which is where I live, called Flat Rock, and I started it with like multiple roads and different intersections. It's like a free roam. We scrapped that. Then for another free roam, I started this one for Denver. It was in the mountains, and it was based in Vail, Colorado. We scrapped that. We did one of Utah, which was 3 different scenes, which was Cedar City, St. George, and then the canyons. We scrapped that. Now we have Atlanta, which has proven to be the best one. It's a lakeside. You can see Atlanta on the other side of the water, and it's got Tennessee mountains in the background. It's really pretty. And we're keeping that because I can't do another free roam. I can't.
That's the sixth free roam attempt. And we
Wow.
haven't released a single free roam map, but that's our sixth.
I forgot the one. So I released a city template called Elmsford a while back, because everybody was just like, make this remixable, make this remixable, make this remixable about our MSR tracks, and I was like, hell no, not in 100 years. I'm not seeing Wario in San Francisco. GTFO, please, bye. So I was just like, Russ, I'm gonna make a city just to get people off my backs. It took me like 3 days to make that, and I started off using all of my assets. Like, it was mostly my assets, and I was just like, I don't have enough assets, and other people can beg to differ about that, but sometimes I feel like I don't have enough assets. So I was taking some of Russ's assets and Ian St. Art's assets and some of Matizel's assets and put them in the level. And I released it as a as a remixable scene, and I really haven't seen anyone do anything about it except for like a flash game, like you run around as Flash.
Oh god,
And
Flash games, I get notifications about.
someone put a first person puppet in it and called it My City, and I was just like, how you doing?
Yeah.
That's the problem with streams, is it's
When
so
we trying
easy
to turn into a free room of
so
our own.
easy. It's so easy to take someone's asset and then call it your own, because all you have to do is just save it twice, and then your name completely disappears in the genealogy. I had a palm tree that I released, which was one we used for the first Miami.
Boy, don't mess with this guy's trees.
Someone, they apologized. It's fine. Someone posted it up and called it palm tree, and then they posted another one up and called it tall palm tree, and then curved palm tree, and then baby palm tree, and there was no mention of my name, and that one got used more than mine. It's been in a lot of games. It's been in
Because it's
like
had more likes, so it comes up in the search.
4 of Prince Laser's games and like 3 of the dreamer escapes me right now, but it's another popular dreamer, and I was just like, that's my tree. I even put it in the comments. I was like, that's my tree, and they were just like, oh, but it doesn't say your name on it. I was like, that's sus. Something sus over here. I guess we're playing Among Us. Anywho, so I went through the genealogy. I went through the genealogy of Prince Laser thing, and I went into it like 12 times. I was like, duh, 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 and I was like, why he gotta have so many of this in this genealogy? Because I had to go through like 5 different versions just to find it, and I found it, and I was like, well, hello there, thief.
Oh no.
Boy,
Which,
I'm not a person who takes lightly to someone stealing my art, because I've had it happen before. I drew something and then I posted it on Pinterest, and I found it on Google, and it was written under a different artist name with my freaking signature on the art. And people were just like, "Oh my god, that's so beautiful. Wow, wow, wow." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm the real artist."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
So
mean, you
ever
shouldn't take it lightly. I mean, that wasn't.
I don't take
well,
it lightly. I spend like 6 to 7 hours doing my digital art, which I would love to show. All I got is this sketch right here.
I see.
nice.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice.
She thick. Anywho.
I wish I could draw. I wish I could draw like that, but I'm not an artist.
I mean, I have my sketchbook right here. I have an entire like manga I'm doing outside of Dreams. Dreams isn't my only art. Like,
Yeah.
Very nice.
I like drawing characters with a lot of tattoos. Tattoos are fun to draw. Hard to do. Yeah, they're hard to do, but they're fun to draw. And as an artist, I find Dreams just an amazing thing, because if I want to create a house, I could do it. If I want to add broken windows to that house, save a new asset, I can do it. You know, if I want to make 50 million trees, like y'all have already heard, I can do it. And if I want to make a city in 15 minutes, I can do it. Like, there's really no limitations besides graphics.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides thermo.
Besides thermo, that thermo come up like an X.
The great equalizer. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The thermo come up like an X. It's just like, it's time, baby. No.
Man, if I could, the team of Dino knows I can blow through some damn thermo. Like, with the simplest thing that could possibly ever be made. And it'll be like, I made 4 squares, 100% thermo. It's like,
I mean, because they don't tell people, and like a lot of people have this problem, they don't know about the existence of the sculpture detail tool, because nowhere in the tutorials does it actually teach you
That tutorial's
about the
too long.
existence of this tool. So
See,
I remember in the Facebook group, which used to be bumping and now is just kind of dead. Twitter's definitely where it's at for Dreams, but there used to be people that would post a picture of, like you said, a square, a block, and they were like, "Where's all my thermo gone?" I'm like, well, okay, so you've got a cube, you've got a sphere, a cylinder, And all of those are like at max fleck density. So like you've got a sphere that's 30%. And actually I go into creations sometimes that I find that were made a long time ago, or not so long ago, by people. And the graphics are like insane, and I'm sort of like reducing the detail down on things, and it's like that's only going down 1% or 2%, and then I get to this tiny little cylinder that they've used for like an exhaust pipe or something, and I click it a few times, and the graphics go down like 20%. I'm like, whoa, because they haven't taken down. They've got this massively detailed cylinder for this tiny little thing, but the
that's me.
thermo is
That's
still.
me.
Best example is the
Because
one house we had
you
in
can enlarge
Miami.
that, it's like you can enlarge it and it will be like incredibly dense and detailed, but actually you don't need that. So I feel like one of the things need to do is update their tutorials to teach some of these essentials like the sculpture detail tool, which just isn't there. And people that come to the game and just sort of like, well, this is crap. I can only make a square and a circle and I'm done. Like, and then people are like, oh, how do you make a whole city? I'm like, it's called optimization. But I don't think do enough to promote that, and I feel like they leave a lot of it up to the community to do that, which is cool because the community, takes the ball and runs with it. But in game, like actually inside the package, inside the product that you've bought, there should be more that just gives you these basic things, because not everyone is, going to go onto social media. Not everyone is going to look up YouTube. Some people, they expect things to be in the game. They expect these things to be given to them without having to go elsewhere. Even like with the manual, there's no manual for Dreams. It's all online. If you want to find out about how things work, you've got to go online. And that's kind of like, well, wouldn't you kind of expect to have some sort of documentation like in game that's accessible? And maybe that's one of the things that turns people off when they first come to Dreams, is they just get overwhelmed by these things. They can't find an easy answer, and maybe they don't realize that the answers are out there on, YouTube or Twitter or whatever, and maybe they do just give up because they just think, well, that's it, that's all I can do.
But
so
not
yeah,
before posting on
they do.
Facebook. But not before posting on Facebook about how upset they
are.
are.
On Facebook, they just go in, this game sucks. Look at this, it's 100%. What is going on?
I do like that y'all have the section of San Francisco from Venom in like from
Venom.
yeah Venom. But
which section is that?
It was just on the video where it's like going down the twist. It was in Ant-Man 2, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the part where there's like the road and then it stops and there's like almost like a garden area and it has like a path going.
Street, yeah.
And then it goes back.
That is a really interesting road, because like the way we've got it is really small, but actually if you look at it in real life, it's so jagged. It's kind of like it's like 50-degree angle or something, but it's kind of diagonal, all the way down, and cars actually drive down it. That's the crazy thing, it's actually
11 curves. It's 11 curves in one block.
Wow.
That's just insane.
It was originally created as a walking.
Iconic.
It was originally created as a walking path through the gardens to show how beautiful San Francisco can be in the dry climate of California.
Yeah,
and then they turned into a driving path in the 80s. So it's still the classic bricks that original San Francisco had, but then they turned it into a driving path because it was better for traffic. So at the bottom of Lombard Street, there's a freaking traffic light, because they need that. As soon as they come off of 11 curves, you have to stop instead of going forward. So what I did when I was creating Lombard, the first time I had too many curves, the car couldn't do it. So the second time, which is the one that you saw on screen, I decided to just move it to 1 and then 2 curves to make it easier. Plus, it's not as elevated in real life. It's really flat, so I wanted more of a challenge. The whole thing was I wanted it to be like a jump at first, because I just wanted it to be a jump over. But at the time we didn't really have any air mechanics for the car, so I just made it a single curve, and you know what? It's not that bad. I like it.
Is there an achievement for someone going through like a full race and not hitting a tree, not ruining your beautiful work?
we gonna call
I'd
that
love to implement
Dwayne
achievements
Giant
into the full
Tonight
game.
achievement.
I definitely want to implement achievements when we put it all into the full the full thing, you know. But I think yeah, I think like I've just realised because I've had my stream paused because I didn't want to have two things up, and I just realised you've been showing footage
Yes.
during the stream because I've been thinking like, well, we're just seeing this, but then it's like,
What you
wait,
talking about?
this story isn't what the viewers are seeing. Because I've just had it paused because I didn't want to see myself twice. It's bad enough I have to see myself once, so twice it's just like, so yeah, I was kind of
I
just
see myself
get rid
3
of it.
times. There's a mirror in the living room.
Mm-mm.
But
The angle
yeah,
is
no,
nasty.
it's interesting to watch our sort of progression, if you like, with what we've done. You know, how we've moved beyond the first iterations and now onto the second, and how much has changed. You know, with the design and the gameplay and all these sort of things. And I can only imagine if a PS5 version comes out before we're done with this thing, how much of a spanner in the works that's going to throw, because all of a sudden Randy's going to be like, we can have 10 more tree types, and it'll be like,
What
we
you
can
talking
have
about? That's
sand, and we
now.
can have this area and this. I was like, oh my god.
He's in tree heaven.
You know, because it takes
It's
us so
called
long to
trapping.
make each individual track. I think some people in the past they've sort of said like, "Oh, why don't you just wait until you make the whole thing before releasing? Why are you releasing it piecemeal? You know, one track at a time?" And they're like, "Well, it takes us on
Because it
average
takes so
6 months to
damn
make one
long.
track, you know. So I kind of feel like it's justified that we release that one track for people to try, and also we've got a lot of feedback and stuff in the process that's helped us improve, you know, over time anyway, and that's been really really useful to help us, you know, with the development of the game and the engine that we're creating and things. But I do think that the way where we're at now, I feel like there are still going to be a few things that we'll release, but there's a lot of stuff that we're going to keep back for the full game, you know. And there's a lot of things where it's like we're um, improving and giving a glow up to some of the older tracks and stuff that maybe we won't release, because we want to have some stuff, you know, that's kind of fresh for the game. You know, we
Yeah.
don't want to show it
Yeah.
all, but it's helped us build a profile up to now for the game. You know, it's helped us get people, you know, knowing the name MSR and MM have sort of picked it up, and we've had some MM picks and stuff with some of the things we've made. So that's helped us kind of get the project out there. And we've got people now that kind of are happy to work with us, and you know, we've got a couple of guys, the Muffin Man and Script Kit, who are really good at making cars, and they're making cars for us. You know, that car in San Francisco was made by Script Kit. Muffin Man made all the cars in the intro movie, the three that you sort of see driving around. You know, really talented artists that we're sort of got as unofficial partners, if you like, to the MSR team, that we can go to,
I
and
forget
they're quite
Ian.
happy to help us. And Ian as well. Ian's been part for a long time, because Ian St. Artist was, you know, making stuff for us way back in the beginning. You know, because before we were sort of making all our own assets, you know, he was making a lot of like mountains and things specifically for levels and stuff like that. So you know, we've got like people that are really now just quite happy to work with us, which is awesome, and we wouldn't have been able to get that way if we hadn't built up a bit of a profile within the community, you know, for what we're making. But I do sort of feel now that maybe is the time perhaps to dial it back a little bit, and we are sort of doing that because we are working on lots of things behind the scenes, and we're teasing stuff here and there, you know, on like Twitter and stuff, of screenshots. But that's stuff that you might not see for another 6 months or a year, you know, to be able to actually play. Um, and whereas before we may have been like thinking, oh, we need to release this and this, we feel now we've got enough of a catalog to give people a flavor, to get them excited, if you like, for what the full thing will be, that we don't have to keep releasing everything for them. Randy might disagree there, because I know that with the glow ups that we're doing on some of the older tracks, he like people to see those, but I think that we've got to keep some of it back for the
Yeah.
full
Well,
game.
of
I would
course,
I
I
would
would like
agree.
them to see that, like, as soon as I do it, because as an artist, I want people to see what I've completed, but there's the logic that has to go into it and everything, so you have to make sure that all that's done before people play it, because then it's just going to be pretty, and then the logic and the gameplay is just going to be really crappy, and I don't want that. Right now, it's playing California, and I'm looking at it, and I'm literally doing it right now, and I can't. I can't look at that. But at the time, it was really, really like groundbreaking for us, because it was our largest track. Putting 300 miles within one small like thing is, and having so much to work with. Um, but now I have made it to where we have more gameplay and more stuff, and we're emitting using emitters to emit trees and buildings and stuff like that, so the cities seem more dense, and that's really working out better. But that probably won't be out probably till July, for all I know.
Going
Well,
by past past sort of timescales and things, and also we're really bad at actually finishing these things, because we will
Right.
get to about 80 or 85% done, and we will be at that point where we're sort of like, okay, it's not
I'm
finished
gonna
yet.
start a new
What
track.
else? Yeah, exactly. That's it. We bounce around way too much between things. But actually now that's okay, because we've got, like, this whole kind of roster of tracks that we need to make for the full game. So
Right.
having, we've got like 10 things already that are kind of there or thereabouts, but some of them need like this redo and things. But so
Might
the
tease a
the
few.
plan, yeah, the plan is to release with about 12 unique locations, but there will be multiple tracks within some of those locations. There'll be like short and long versions of layouts and stuff like that, to give you more variety. And being a big car guy, I'm really keen to have every track have a different car, because I love being able to utilize the amount of awesome vehicles that are on the Dreamiverse already, that have been created by people like Muffin Man and ScriptKit, and also they're prepared to make more for us, that we want. So we can, Muffin Man is a phenomenal car creator or vehicle creator. He's made, well over 100 vehicles in Dreams, and he has improved again over time. His early vehicles were quite thin, quite narrow, but he's gone back through all his old catalog and just completely redone a lot of them, and they're just so much better now, based on all the new things that he knows and has learned.
Yeah.
And he's saying to me, like, yeah, what cars do you want? What do you want for this? And I'm giving him the cars, and got a list of the sort of cars. Obviously, they're not real, because we don't want to get into any any sort of licensing
Yeah.
problems. But there does seem to be a fair bit of leeway when it comes to that sort of thing in racing games. I feel like I'm playing a racing game I bought the other day called Art of Rally, which is an indie game that's been on
Yeah.
PC for a long time. It's finally come out to PlayStation. I've been really hyped for it, because it's got all these like classic rally cars from the 60s up to the 90s, all the stuff that I kind of
And that
grew
art
up
style is
watching.
sexy.
Is that, yeah, it is a
Yeah.
fantastic game, but none of the cars are licensed. They're all just lookalikes, but they look exactly like what they are, with maybe a few small differences here and there. And I think that's enough to get around the licensing issues. I think as long as you don't stick a badge on and go, that's a Lamborghini, I
Yeah.
think you're okay. Um, so that's given me, that game being released in that way, and seeing that has given me a good indication that actually you can skirt quite close to it, without falling
mm,
foul of the copyright police, if you like. Um, and I think also when you make something in Dreams, it's almost impossible to make it one to one anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it always ends up with some things that are not quite right, and that actually just helps in that respect.
Yeah.
Because oh well, that actually isn't the right grill, or that's too long, or whatever. It's like, well, okay, but it's based on, it's not actually, a Gran Turismo copy of a car.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a lot of plans and a lot of ideas, and we keep coming up with new ideas, and it's kind of at some point we're just like, stop. We need to put the brakes on and just focus on these things, and then maybe like once we've got the game out, it's like we can have extra stuff after. Because we're just always bouncing these new ideas. Like, wouldn't this be a cool track? Oh, this would be awesome. This would be great. Make a new asset. Oh, that would be perfect for da, da, da. And if we didn't reel it back, then we'd never release anything
Yeah.
really, because
Yeah.
we're too ambitious for our own good. I think is the way that Night Owl described it, in that we got all these ideas of what we want to do, but we never know when enough is enough. And it's the same with when we're building levels. We've always got to squeeze that little bit extra thermo. We've always got to put that little bit extra detail in, that extra tree type, that extra building. And it causes us problems, with the optimization and with the fitting everything in to the thermo limitations. But we are getting better at it. We are getting more on top of those things, than we were, and it means that we can do more, and we can do more of what we envision and what we actually want. Whereas in the past, we always seem to be fighting that gameplay thermo. That gameplay thermo was just the nemesis that would not go away. I remember with San Francisco's track, the very first version we did, we had 2% gameplay thermo left. And I was desperately trying to find a piece of music that would fit in, that would allow us to have some music. Because I hadn't put any music in there, and we built this bloody level, and it was just full to the rafters of
I remember
everything.
what we did for that. I remember what we did, and it made me cry. You think we can get rid of some of these trees on the Embocadero? And like, for
Yeah.
real?
It always had to
No.
be the trees that got sacrificed, because those are the things that took up the most gameplay. Because even now, and we'll go back to trees, because one of the things that this optimization has spawned is that now the trees in our levels are able to move. They're able to sway. Randy's come up with a really good technique using signal generators and action recorders that allow individual sculpts of the leaves to move, and they look amazing. The problem is that means that you have more pieces, which means more gameplay thermo.
Yeah.
And I've had to have quite a few difficult conversations with him about, now, do we need all of these swaying trees?
Yes.
Because each of them are like 5 or 6 pieces. And
No, I'm kidding.
actually, couldn't we just have like some simpler trees that are 2 sculpts? That would give us
No.
so much more gameplay back. And and I've had to have some really serious conversations with him, sort of sit down conversations, like State of the Union, sort of, right. Once and for all, we need to address the tree situation. I know you
You're
love
talking
trees.
like a parent.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this is where the age difference really comes in, because I'm almost twice as old as Randy,
You're
and
almost the same age as my parents.
yeah, and that's weird for you, I know, but that sort of, and I'm a teacher as well, and so sometimes I have to put on my teacher voice and have to be like, right, this is
Oh
the
my
way that we
god,
need to
I
do things. We need to
know.
have a very serious conversation
I
about
imagine
things.
him.
You're
I imagine him
listening.
just
You're
coming back.
failing my class.
I imagine him coming back with like, yeah, we need to talk about removing some trees, and just have him come back with, I feel like we could remove some cars. Just if we could just remove cars.
But this is the thing: the cars I deliberately have made to be as low thermo as possible.
Yeah.
Like I've
I'm
made
more
a whole
savage than
set of low
that.
thermo versions of the already quite low thermo ones that I've made anyway. Um, I sort of made these vehicles because there weren't any good vehicles in the Dreamiverse that were low thermo that you could just dot around the place as parked cars, in car parks and things. So recognizing that there was that kind of gap in the market, if you like, I thought, okay, I like cars. Let's make some cars. And I've made now about 20 different vehicles. in
Still
one
need to
sculpt
make
for the
more.
most part, one sculpt for the whole body, and then there's like individual wheels so you can animate them. But then
Yeah.
I made a collection of low thermo where I put the wheels inside the sculpt of the shape. So like everything is one sculpt, including the wheels, for stationary things, for things that are just parked, where you don't need the wheels to move. So it's literally one sculpt and one paint for the lights for each of those. So you can place like 50 of them for 1% gameplay. So you can have big car parks and stuff, and we can have traffic emitting, in our levels. And that was something that we learned while we were making Blue Shift with our repairer, where we had to emit vehicles along the road, and it was a procedurally generated game, so it was emitting tree groups, it was emitting roads, it was emitting traffic. There was like a lot going on constantly, and we found that when we were emitting vehicles that were like 3, 4, 5 sculpt pieces, the gameplay was just, everything was just plummeting. So we were like, okay, we need to make it one sculpt. We need one sculpt vehicles, and that's where I first learned that technique of putting it all into one sculpt so that you can emit without having frame rate issues and things. And so I applied that. Then I was like, okay, well, we can just use this for everything. We can just have, we can have these in our levels. We've got lots of intersections and stuff. We can have cross traffic. We can have highways and all that sort of thing. And the wheels don't need to move because they're just low poly cars. That are just to cause an obstruction. Nobody is bombing along at 100 mile an hour and going, that wheel isn't moving. That's not right. So it's just kind of like, yeah, it's opened up these new possibilities for these kind of hazards, and we did do it in our Chicago level, where you're driving along the highway and there's traffic like coming towards you, and you have to like slalom from one side of the road to the other and then back again to get on the off ramp. And we did it in Crescent City as well, where it's like cross traffic. And we
We
wouldn't have
have
been
it
able
in
to do
South
that
Central
6 months ago because we
and
wouldn't have had the
Atlanta.
gameplay. And yeah, and South Central, the one that we're working on at the moment, that's supposed to be, supposed to be the next one that we sort of release. That's got a whole kind of main road section with a train, and you go over the train track, and there's like barriers and stuff where you can just get just ahead of the train, but there's also traffic coming down, and it's crazy. But we could not have done that 6 months ago because A, we didn't have the optimization in the level, and B, we didn't know how, and we didn't have these assets, to be able to do that with in the first place.
And that is the
So again,
beauty
it
of
just opens
dreams.
up more
Like
It
possibilities.
just
really is.
yeah,
Yeah.
just the idea that like I mean, just my own progression, but the idea that you do something and you're like, yeah, I did it, and you're like really happy about it, and then like you'll come back to it and just be like, I can do that better now. I'm gonna go do that. So yeah, I can only
Yeah.
And
imagine
remake
what the
everything.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
only imagine what the optimization would be like for something with the large like canvases that y'all are working with. But yeah, it's been amazing having y'all on, and I'm gonna want to have y'all back on again. Unfortunately, I have run out of time because
Anytime,
because the wife is starting to hit me with messages. But don't we have something we need to do? No, it's just so
Do we need to
That's on the
talk
Matrix.
in the bedroom?
yeah. I'm gonna wrap it up,
That type of
but.
stuff.
I would love to have you guys back for whenever we do our next roundtable, which is when
Sure,
we
yeah.
have like 5 or 6 people or more joining us, and
Oh,
we
those are
just
so good. Yeah, those
yeah.
are so good. I love the 50th anniversary one you did. That was the stream
Yeah,
that
that was
got me into it
crazy.
actually, because Night Owl was like, "Oh, you should watch these guys. They all chat. They sit around. And they talk about dreams." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds like my typical party chat." And I started listening, and I was like, "This is like all these things
No,
that you're
your
coming up
typical
with.
party
Is
chat is trees.
yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, all these things that you're discussing and all the topics is just like, yeah, this is totally up my street." And I started like checking out the older ones, the one you had with Cap and the one you had with uh SZ73
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, phenomenal. Love that guy's work.
Yeah,
And
he's
such an
crazy.
interesting person to have on as well, like waxing lyrical about dreams and things. They're
Mm.
Yeah.
just
Is that
captivating.
right?
So yeah, it's like your podcast has just become this regular sort of thing. Even if I can't catch it live, it's kind of like later on when you put it on YouTube and stuff. I can put it on when I'm working and stuff, and it's great to hear. And it's a community thing as well. You know, you talk a lot about community.
Yeah. We
and
have the
the
I
best
feel
in
community
the
bad
we
because
have
is
the
I've only
best in the
seen
industry.
one.
We
it's
really
so
do.
it's so supportive, and it's so great how everyone just climbs on top of each other's shoulders to enhance their craft. You know, Twitter, I was completely against Twitter for many years, and then I decided, because everything dreams related seemed to be going through Twitter, I was like, I've got to get a
No,
Twitter
I
account. So
convinced
I have a
you.
Twitter account just for dreams. Like, all that other
Yeah.
crap can go away, but my feed is just dreams, and then there's the odd random thing that a dreamer has reposted. I'm like, okay, but it's mainly
I'll just
dreams,
keep
you know.
keep scrolling.
And I know we really
Fancy
talk
Yeah.
about
clothes
the
to get
dream
the car.
stuff.
And
Well,
but
guys, it's
again,
been absolutely
yeah.
fantastic. Thank you so much for both of you for taking time to come on the show and talk about your game. I'm really excited to see what the future holds for it. It seems like you've got a lot of big plans in place. There's going to be so many more trees that we're going to get excited to see in it. Yeah, it's fantastic, and we
Be a
can't wait
month.
to have you back on again.
Indeed.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having us, guys. It's been a blast.
No worries.
Thank you so much.
You're very
Indeed.
welcome.
And y'all will be
These
back.
tree
We will.
jokes in the comments are killing me.
That's-
She gonna give you the tree talk.
Yeah, they're all going to be in there searching out your trees now. They're going to
Yeah,
be coming.
that's it.
They're going to be coming for the
Good.
title.
Go
They're going to be
through.
coming for the
Go
title.
through,
So-
y'all. Go through, y'all. Get them trees
All
in
right.
there. Get them trees in there.
Let me
All right,
see
well-
here. Let me go ahead and see if this will work enough to. There we go.
I think
Oh,
the stream didn't
wait.
crash, so looked like Twitch came through.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start the raid on the sauceless one, and yeah, hopefully, if you want to learn how to do music or get better at music, watch Sauceless work. He's gonna be our guest at the end of the month, and he's going to be doing the first. If we can get it technically set up, he's going to be doing the first workshop episode of the podcast to help people with being able to create music. So
It's going to be a fun one.
yeah,
It's going to be a
good
fun
idea.
one.
it's going to be pretty great. And next week we have Stabby, right?
We do indeed.
All right. Well, everybody, you know where to be on your Fridays. Come through, check us out. You know, laugh with us, talk trash, whatever. It don't matter.
Okay.
But
We can talk about trees. It's okay.
or just talk about trees. We love you. Thank you for being here every week. Thank you again for being our guest. We are out.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.